Hello, everyone. Funny thing, when you're a night owl like me, you tend to wake up pretty late in the morning and everything's kind of already happened for the day. Announcements and reveals have already occurred. People are already talking about it. It's fun to just kind of like roll out of bed, turn your phone on, and oh my god, everyone's already in the middle of a conversation. And today, I roll out of bed, I turn my phone on, I flip through Twitter, and there's picture after picture of Cybertron Metroplex, and I kind of think to myself, did I wake up in 2005? It'd be great. The toy prices would be affordable. But no, the date is correct. And yeah, much to my shock, all the rumors were true. All the leaks panned out, etc. Cybertron Metroplex is our new Titan class figure, officially out for pre-order now. This is a shocking choice by Hasbro. I mean, Cybertron Metroplex is a really big toy and character, but he is not a big character as like recognition or fan memory. He's not like a big. Even in Cybertron, he's not much of a character. He's the leader of the giant planet, which comes very late in the show. There's not really much for him to do plot wise. The most he really does is just throw his weapon to Optimus Prime and let him finish things off. It's a weird choice. It's a really weird choice. I can understand why, but also weird choice. So we saw the box art came after the official reveal, so we can glean a few things from the box art. For one, it's amazing looking. Like the artists are going all out on some of these package designs and character arts, and this is where I really wish I knew who drew it, because I would love to like pop on Twitter and give them credit. But no, we're not allowed to know. A few things to point out. One, poor Inferno. Now, typically this would be Waspinator's job to handle. If someone needs to get shredded into a million bits, that's usually when you bring in Waspinator. Not in this toy line, so we're going to go with Inferno instead, who took his fair share of getting blown up as well. Yeah, poor Inferno. It's a really weird way to confirm that we're getting Beast Wars Inferno and Legacy. I'm just going to say that. Kickbacks down at the bottom, so apparently they just kept to this bug motif. Remember, one of the generic enemy in the Cybertron series was the scrap metals, insect-like walker tanks that plagued Cybertron. So this is actually not a bad throwback to that. If we look in the upper right corner, we see the Nemesis flying around. I don't know if that is a tease of a future Titan class, just to gauge our particular interest. I mean, it would make sense. It'd be the counterpoint to the arc. But sometimes these things are just thrown in. We know from computer listings we're getting Inferno, but the Nemesis I'm not heard any buzz or rumor about. It might just be to gauge interest or maybe to build a little bit of hype. So that's for the box art. We can take a look at the back of the box, and we can actually see a lot of the toy in very nice, colorful detail. 52 steps. 52 transformation steps. And here's something I forgot to look up beforehand. Give me a minute. So thank you, Unicron.com, for being a wonderful resource for archiving instruction sheets. Look at this thing. So the original Cybertron Metroplex took 9 transformation steps to go from robot to vehicle, and that is excluding the work mode, which is really just stopping the transformation halfway through. Even if we include that, we only get up to 16 steps for transformation. How did this toy get to 52? Are you counting each and every individual movement? Like, I do not see how it makes any, I don't see how it gains any transformation steps. I mean, it might gain a few because of the new things that the tool arm does, but it also looks like it loses a few because I'm not seeing like those little like bridging tabs that are supposed to connect the torso and the legs. It's weird. I have no idea how they got to such a huge number of steps on this thing. I don't know. It's got to be like fabricated somewhere. Something's got to be exaggerated, mirrored instruction points that are normally like counted as one must be counted as two. Something. The numbers are cooked somewhere in this. I'm actually really curious to see this in hand. I don't normally go for like early reviews or anything like that. I'm still thoroughly against those, but I would not mind a full like Hasbro, up your game here. Give me like a full step-by-step transformation through this so I can actually see how you got to 52. All right, so let's look at the toy itself because we've got some beautiful production photos of this guy. The sculpting and paintwork on him is absolutely spectacular. It does not look like they missed anything. It looks like it's closer based on the colors they went with for the Japanese release of this. The blues are a little bit brighter. The forearms are way more painted than the original. I mean, it looks really, really good for what it is, for what it's trying to replicate. Yeah, they did a fantastic job here. What I'm noticing off of the pictures is we have no spot for a cyber key and no minicon ports whatsoever. Now, minicon ports I could potentially understand, but it would be nice. Like, if all you have to do is sculpt a peg on there and say, like, this is where a minicon could go. If you've been hanging on to a minicon that is compatible with him for the last 17 years, you've got a minicon post to actually stick him onto. But there's nothing like that on the figure anywhere. It would have been a nice throwback to his origins. Also, no cyber key, which I understand there isn't going to be any kind of there isn't going to be any kind of weird gimmick on this one. No electronics to activate, no firing missiles. We're long past that. I think at the Titan class, you could probably get away with something, though. And even if it's just decorative, it's just one piece of painted plastic, Like, I wouldn't have minded. I like my cyber keys. I love my cyber keys. It just doesn't feel like a Cybertron toy if it doesn't have one of these, even if it's just for show. At the very least, they could have painted one on, just sculpted into the side of the buzzsaw. I don't know. And I don't know. It feels weird to have like a key feature, literally, of the Cybertron toy line completely ignored for this design. I mean, can't argue the result. Like it's really good looking version of Cybertron Metroplex. So this is a 22-inch tall rendition of the figure. Now we keep in mind, this is a really important thing here. The original Cybertron Metroplex really didn't have any goal as far as being like a solid Transformer toy. It was more meant to be a test of like how big they could actually make a figure at the $40 price point and still have a transformation to it. Most of its transformation engineering relies on the joints that already exist. Elbow bend, bicep rotation, knee joints. There's very few bits on the entire toy that are specifically designed as transformation engineering. So the goal to him has always just been size. So when you put him at that price point and he only reaches 22 inches, I mean, sure, probably should keep him under Fort Max size. I think Fort Max and Unicron always need to be the biggest Transformers ever released. But in this case, I don't know. Like it's going to be huge. That's the thing. I think what's cool about this is that it's actually in scale with how big how big he actually was. If you remember the Cybertron cartoon, they come from the giant planet, which is literal. The characters from that planet are gigantic compared to all the other Transformers, Metroplex especially. This one's going to be in scale to my Cybertron Optimus Prime. It took him 17 years to get the scale correct, but it should be correct, or at very least much, much closer than the original toys were. That's a hilarious side effect. Definitely not an intention, though. If I zoom in on him, I'm double checking. So we've got articulation. Not only do his shoulders rotate outward from underneath the shoulder armor, but at the torso as well. You can see that they hinge upward to give him a little bit more range of movement. Is that shadow on his mouth, or does he actually have like an opening mouth? I think it's just shadow. Yeah, I think that's just a weird shadow. I don't think his jaw opens. There's no cut line for it. Articulation in the fingers though. He's got a knuckle joint. That's fun. Thumb joint as well. So he's got some hand articulation. That does put me at a bit of concern for how well he's going to be able to hold this massive buzzsaw. But at this price point, they've got all the engineering to make that happen. They don't really have to shortcut anything. As a rendition of the character, it looks fantastic. Uh, and here's the beautiful thing: I don't have to go check show accuracy with this character because Cybertron toys were literally modeled after the actual toys. They are the most show accurate toys you could possibly get, right down to like screw holes being visible in them. So I'm not concerned about how accurate it looks. Of course, it looks accurate. I mean, they've changed a little bit. They've stylized him here and there, but for the most part, yeah, this is the same character. This is like spot on what he should look like. I like this under sling handle he can do with the buzzsaw too. I got excited for a bit, just for a little bit. I got excited because I saw these tabs on the side of his crane arm, and it really made me wonder. Okay, what clips into there? Is there like a cyber key we're not seeing? Is this how like core class drill bit's going to be able to connect onto him, just so I can kind of pretend like he's got a minicon? And then it kind of dawned on me that that's probably just how his big weapon attaches to his back. Yeah. So I got myself a little bit hyped up and excited, and I don't think that's actually going to be anything. Now that I really, really look at it, I'm upset to see that like there's no like even like the missile firing thing from the original toy is not there. It's weird to know that this toy, as expensive as it is, I haven't even talked about the price yet. As expensive as it is, as big as it still has features from the original toy that have been removed, which is bizarre to me. Like, I can understand why there's no electronics. They don't, they try to not, they avoid that at all costs on Transformers these days. Though we've seen Cyberverse with like rudimentary LED gimmicks. You could have put something like that in. It is just bizarre to me. It's just bizarre to me that in some way we're hit this point where toys from yesteryear are actually better than their modern versions. And I said Cybertron was one of those toy lines where improving upon it is very difficult with today's standards and budgets. This is kind of proving my point here. So if you look somewhere at the photos, we got a close-up. You can see how well painted it is here. The forearms, which were completely unpainted on the original toy, are now lavishly decorated, looking far, far better. Head sculpt is fine. I do like the head sculpt. Now I'm looking at it again. Now I think his mouth does open. Now I do think he has a jaw, because now I see the cut line all the way around his mouth. And the shadow's gone too. So I think he actually does have some mouth articulation. Let's see, what else can he do? So let's talk about the work mode. I hate the work mode. I hate the work mode because it's not an actual mode. It's transforming him and stopping halfway through. There's no dedicated engineering for this mode. There is no dedicated transformation element to this mode. The only thing that makes it any kind of actual mode is the fact that the back of Metroplex's head kind of looks like some other head, kind of looks like a different face. And in the original, he does have sculpting that could pass for like shoulder guns. And you can see they've done that here, where now those actually are shoulder guns. I wish they could, I hope, it looks like they could rotate up for the robot mode, because they look kind of silly just like pointing backward in the full Metroplex mode, like right here, where like it looks like these should rotate up and form like little shoulder spikes. I think that'd look a lot better. But yeah, like they've actually like sculpted it to actually be a secondary face now, and it's a creepy face, by the way. Creepy face walking around with a buzzsaw and a big scoop like this. This feels like something that would chase me in a robotic horror movie. This feels like something that would be like in like Transmorphers, just destroying towns and mowing down people. This is weird. I will say, I will give it credit The weapon splitting in half and combining onto the arms in order to give the weapon the work mode some sort of extra design and actually make it look like something, that is an improvement. That's a new gimmick. Okay, fine. I like that better than just a lame little missile firing out. It is making better use of his weapon, and it does make the work mode a little bit more tangible to me. I still wish there was more dedicated, transformation to it. It's got its own chest now, instead of just like the lump on the back of Metroplex kind of passing for one, so good on them. Like there's actual work put into the work mode now. I still don't like it. I still think it's just like half of a feature. But you know what? It's better than it used to be, so I'll take it. I will take it. I will accept it. I know. I don't know. I feel like I'd like these better the way if it was like Metroplex wielding them, like in normal robot mode. I always felt like if if the work mode had been marketed as his normal robot mode, and then you like said that what we know as Cybertron Metroplex was like a super mode he could transform into, I think it would have been far more palatable. Because no kid wants to put a toy into work mode. No one wants to send him off to work. Oh well. So he's got his work mode. You can see, okay, fine. It's articulated. It looks as weird and goofy as it always did. The extra weapons help. Yeah, the arm extensions definitely help. And then we get to the vehicle mode. So the problem with Cybertron Metroplex has always been the fact that his vehicle mode looks like absolutely nothing. Because remember, the point of this toy was to just be as tall as possible. It was not meant to be a solid or clean looking transformer. So back in the day, his alt mode looked like a guy folded up into a box, and now it looks like a guy folded up into a box. There's some improvements here. It's supposed to be an excavator, so the arms actually do connect to what could pass as like the top of an excavator, like the cockpit. I don't know what you call it, cockpit. I don't know what, the driver's cab, I guess. But even that's a little bit sus. I mean, I don't know a driver's cab that's actually connected to the excavator arm, or the trench digger for that matter. Neither one is still, both of them are still too short to actually reach the ground that they are supposed to interact with. That's always been a weird aspect to me. It's not much of a ditch digger if it can't reach the dirt. There's one bit of weirdness here where like those shoulder guns from the work mode actually do not seem to they don't seem to point forward. Like this really should be on some kind of like hinge where I could lift it, rotate it, and put it back down so it points forward. Now they're just kind of point off to the side. And then, yeah, like things down here in the leg section, it looks more solid than it did before. Things tuck up together a little bit better. The hands fold away. That's a nice improvement. But it's still just, I don't know, like, I like alt mode. Like, okay, you know me. I like my alt modes where they actually use parts of the alt mode to form the robot mode instead of just like a car shell that a robot is tucked into. This is too far. There is no vehicle parts. It is just robot parts folded into some semblance of a vehicle. And I said, like I said, it looks better than it did before, but it still looks really, really weird. And I really wish they had come up with some way to more convincingly see it as a vehicle, as some gigantic alien construction equipment. So that's always gonna be my issue with the toy. That's always gonna be my issue is that vehicle mode, such as it is. They showed the other side. I don't know why they showed both sides because there's literally no difference. It's the exact same thing on both sides. See, and then, yeah, close-up of the buzzsaw. I do like little trench-digging teeth that are in it now, so that's a little bit more accurate. Yeah, it's just... They don't even tell us if it spins. Like, at the very least, can I get, like, a little spin motor thing? I can even see, like, they even sculpted in the claws that were supposed to, like, hold the cyber key, but no cyber key. It's so weird to me. So, I think it's important to really study this, I mean, Cybertron Metroplex, it's people watching this video that have never seen the original, have no idea who this character is. So for that, we have actually done a side-by-side comparison. The original toy is on the right, the new one is on the left. You can see a lot of the details are quite this much the same. They have changed. They've obviously the blues are, like I said, the blues are brighter, which is more in line with the Takara release. There's some extra paint apps that I believe were on the original toy, but got removed from the American release because that was how Hasbro originally budgeted things. Yeah, and most of it's still intact. Definitely still looks very much like the same character, but you can see where at a glance, you could almost swear that the one on the left is just a customizer going to town on the one on the right. Physically, there's not a lot of difference, largely because, like I said, Cybertron toys were slavishly accurate in the animation because of how the production system worked. In this case, that means that there's really no room for improvement visually in how the character is portrayed, which is one reason why I'm kind of like, I don't know, let down by this choice by Hasbro. There's a part of me that really feels like the next Titan should have been Tidal Wave. Not only because it's another gigantic character that's well remembered, he's got more time under his belt than Metroplex does. He appeared sooner in the series, and he carried over into Energon. So you have a lot more people aware of who he is. Also, I feel like it's a better toy package because you have 3 distinct vehicles, which at Titan size would be just like gigantic and beautiful and be loaded with things that they could do. And then you got the combined spaceship mode, which always looks super cool. The robot mode, the integration with Ramjet, it would absolutely have to have a core class Ramjet it could interact with. But even then, like, I'm thinking to what they did with like Skylynx, where they fan moded a base mode for him. And we just saw the same thing with Motormaster. And they're getting good at that. You could do the exact same thing with Tidal Wave and actually come up with a base mode so he was more in line with past Titan figures. That's another thing about him that kind of irks me, is that like he stands out from the other Titans as like there's no aspect of him that is a base. Even on Arc, you had a cockpit you could open up and place those tiny little minifigures that they designed to be in scale with Unicron. There's at least a little bit of playset feature. You know, it doesn't work with the current figures, but hey, you know, there's an attempt. This doesn't do anything except be big, and the downside here is that Cybertron Metroplex back in the day, $40 for a toy that was taller than any other leader class figure, and you know, approached the height of like Supreme class, and I think he did. Now, if I think of it now, that was the appeal. You got such a big figure for a lower price point. Now, for a higher price point, we're getting a toy that is, yes, much bigger than our current toys, but we've seen bigger. There's nothing special about it right now because we've gotten Titan class figures for a long time. And they've done ones that are bigger and beefier. I'm also going to point out that there's definitely some shortcuts taken on this design. You look at him, if you like, let me get back to like a full, like, really nice shot of him. Well, I guess any of them will do. So something we found out about Scorponok's production was that in order to actually keep him at the right size, so he scales well with Fort Max, you know, his rival, and the rest of the Titans that are, you know, G1 bases, they had to come up with clever ways of reusing parts to reduce how many molds they needed. And part of that was creating symmetrical legs that worked on both sides of the toy. And on Scorponok, when you point it out, it is noticeable that, you know, he gets very symmetrical in a lot of his parts. And I'm seeing the same thing is true of Metroplex here. The thighs, the lower, you know, the legs in general. You know, the legs in general look like they are one mold cast twice. The lower arms from the bicep down, they're all completely symmetrical, aside from the hands naturally. I can definitely see where the cost cutting is happening. Now, keep in mind, on Scorponok, you know, that's mostly passable because the only thing, you know, because his legs were identical, but you notice it when it's pointed out to you. Metroplex was the same way. His legs were identical. Aside from pegs to lock them together, They were identical front and back. And I'm seeing that here, like the inside of his legs like look the same. I don't see any way of like pegging them together. So that's a little bit concerning at a point that big. I'm actually kind of like curious just like how he snaps together. I'm seeing like one extra point on his foot, which doesn't really count for much. So now I'm kind of wondering how this big boy holds together. If that has to do with like the, what, 40 points of transformation we're missing. All right, and okay, we'll do the comparison shot to the original alt mode as well. You can see here there's very clearly a difference between the two. The center mass especially is completely different now. The shoulders work a very different way on the new version of the figure. Instead of just like putting his arms down like this, his shoulders actually have like a level of transformation. You can see on the original toy that meant the guns on the shoulders pointed backward, or what, you know, kind of look like guns. On the new toy, that means they point sideways, which is still weird. They rotated the arms as well. Now that the hands fold away and are a little bit better hidden, and all that's tucked together better, now there's room to like rotate those around. You know, so you can see like he looks flatter overall and more compact now that those arms are tucked into his center mass. It's still not the most convincing alt mode. It's certainly better than like super tiny cockpit at the top and just, you know, in like tiny little like one peg swivel point for the excavator saw arm. A little bit weird, but this is where you can see like definitely did a lot to make the vehicle mode look different. It still looks very much the same though, and it still doesn't look quite like it's like properly transforming. That's just his thing though. That's it. That's his thing. I'm not going to harp on it anymore. So, what are we paying? That was the question here. It's like, what are we paying? Because we've seen the price hikes on Deluxes and Voyagers in the last year. What are we paying for a Titan now? Well, over on Hasbro Pulse, you can now pre-order Cybertron Metroplex for $199.99. A $200 figure. Sheesh. This is too much. This is too much. For how simple this toy is, this feels like way too much. That's a $40 price hike from where we first were introduced to Titan class. That's a lot. That's a lot. I was just staring at this thing. Oh, how? How did it get that expensive? I don't know. Normally, I have enough faith in the Titans that I just buy it brand new. I'm not going to wait for the sale. On this one, yes. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the sale. And even then, I might pass just because it's not a character I'm terribly attached to. It's disheartening. And it feels like Cybertron Metroplex is a risk. It is doubly a risk to be your first toy that you're going to try and sell at this price point. That feels dangerous. That feels like it's going to backfire. I don't know. Like, we're hitting this point where I'm starting to wonder if Titans are even viable in the market space. Now, like, you're asking retailers to take on a $200 figure. Like, even around Christmas time. That's extreme. So, and you know, it's not a noteworthy character, you know? That's the other thing. It's like, it's, you know, a retailer might know the name Metroplex based on the previous one made, but I don't know. Like, this feels like a gamble at the wrong time. This feels like a gamble at the wrong time. I feel like the tea leaves should have been red and it should have been Tidal Wave. He was the far more popular choice with fans. But who knows? Who knows? We'll wait and see. I like seeing some Cybertron love in the toy line, but this might be too much. This might be too much. Speaking of too much, this video has gone way too long. I did not expect a half-hour breakdown of the brand new Titan class toy, but here we are. I am passionate about my Transformers Cybertron figures, obviously. So if you made it to the end, thank you. Thank you for watching this far. Yeah, I don't know if this helped anybody. This is me just going through and just being very long-winded about what is just me being like very reserved about whether this was a good idea or not. So let me know in the comments below if you're planning to get this toy, if it looks good to you. Is it worth $200? I think that is going to be the big question that might be like the make or break point for any Titan we get from here on out, if we get any more after this. So let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.